Hey guys, the Mention Master Studios here. How y'all doing? So I'm sure as you guys know, when it comes to Ninjago, we have gotten a lot of characters over the years. So many characters. And as a result, we have gotten a lot of female characters. And I feel like when it comes to Ninjago, the female characters, for the most part, are honestly handled really well. And in today's video, I wanted to go over my personal favorite female character when it comes to Ninjago, with that obviously being Akita. I've talked about Akita a few times on my channel and how much I like her, and in today's video, I just wanted to explain why I think Akita is an amazing character and one of the best characters in the show. So, let's get into this whole thing. So for starters, we have Akita's introduction. I feel like Akita's introduction is a genuinely well done scene, and it is for one major reason: the mystery. When it comes to this moment, Akita is in her wolf form the entire time. She's like this when she's watching Lloyd walk through the forest, and she's like this when she saves Lloyd from the frost wolves. And I really like the idea of Akita being in her wolf form this entire time, and it's because of the mystery. At this moment in the show, we don't know who Akita is or why she's helping Lloyd, and I feel like the mystery really adds to this scene. Plus, at the same time, this also ends up working when it comes to Kita's character arc, which revolves around her trust issues, something that Lloyd would help her out with later on during the season, but I'll talk about that later on. Also, speaking of Lloyd, this scene is also the first time that Lloyd and Akita meet each other during the events of the Ice chapter, and I honestly feel like combining that with Akita's introduction was a really great idea. And overall, when it comes to Akita's introduction, I feel like this scene is honestly handled really well. Another reason why I like Akita is because of her backstory. I feel like when it comes to Akita, she has the darkest and most tragic backstory of any character in the show. And here's what I mean by that. Shortly after Akita got access to her animal form, she returned to her village only to find everyone in the village frozen and essentially dead, including her own twin brother Kataru, who sacrificed himself right in front of Akita, giving her the chance to live on. That's already pretty dark, but it gets even worse when you remember the person responsible for the attack in the first place: Vex. And Vex was originally from the Formling tribe, and in this moment, he is attacking and essentially killing his own people without any form of sympathy or remorse at all, and the one and only survivor of this attack is Akita, who at the time was just a little girl. Plus, at the same time, when it comes to all this, after the attack happened, Akita had to live on her own in the woods for years, and she ended up developing trust issues as a result. And like I said, I think this is the darkest and most tragic backstory any Ninjago character has ever gotten. Plus, I feel like this backstory honestly works well at explaining why Akita acts the way she does during the events of the Ice chapter. Plus, at the same time, this backstory also has a very interesting parallel when it comes to Lloyd, but I'll get into that later on. Another reason why I really like Akita is because of her role during the Ice chapter. When it comes to ninja allies, for the most part, whenever they are in a season, usually they don't really play that big a role when it comes to the season. Sometimes you will get characters like Pixel and Faith who play larger roles compared to ninja allies normally, but for the most part, ninja allies don't really play a massive role when it comes to the season that they're in. But when it comes to Akita, it's actually a different situation, because I'd say that when it comes to Akita, she arguably has the largest role of any ninja ally in the show. And here's what I mean by that. When it comes to the Ice chapter, there are 13 episodes, not including the Absolute Worst and the Kaiju Protocol. And when it comes to those episodes, Akita appears in 7 of those episodes. And in all 7 of those episodes, Akita ends up playing some kind of big role. So that's already something pretty interesting, but that's not all. When it comes to Akita, during the actual episodes that she's in, she ends up playing a big role during each of those episodes, and a big part of that role is helping Lloyd. And we see this happen during basically every episode where she's in the season. And once again, I feel like that's something really interesting. Plus, at the same time, when it comes to Akita, she arguably has a larger role in this season compared to some of the ninja. I'd say that when it comes to Akita during the events of the Ice chapter, she plays a larger role than Kai, Jay, Cole, Nia, even Zane. And I'd say that when it comes to Akita, her and Lloyd are effectively tied for being the main characters of the Ice chapter. I mean, just look at the poster that's used for the Ice chapter. When you take a look at it, Akita is the most prominently displayed on the poster. More than the Frost Wolves, more than the Land Bounty, more than the Neverrealm, more than Lloyd, the main character of the show. And I think that says a lot about the role that Akita ends up playing during the events of the Ice chapter. And honestly, I really like this idea actually when it comes to Akita. Her being a ninja ally, but at the same time being a major character when it comes to the season that she's in. Again, I like that idea. Now, before I get to the last major point that I want to talk about, I want to go over a few other things related to Akita that I really like. For starters, her voice. I think that Tabitha St. Germain, Akita's voice actor, did an absolutely amazing job when it comes to the show. And I feel like Tabitha St. Germain honestly had some really great voice lines as Akita. I definitely enjoyed them. Also, when it comes to audio stuff related to Akita, I think that Akita's theme music is absolutely amazing, and I think it is one of the best songs in the show. I especially really like how it's used during the episode Last of the Formlings when Akita is finding her animal form. Also, speaking of Last of the Formlings, that is one of my favorite episodes in the show. I feel like that episode is so good, and it is actually my favorite Wild Rain episode that we have gotten. And when it comes to these things, there are just some more things about Akita that I do honestly really like. Finally, though, that brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Akita, and it is honestly my favorite thing about her, with that being her and Lloyd's dynamic. I think that Lloyd and Akita's dynamic over the course of the Ice chapter is genuinely amazing, and I honestly think that it is the best storyline that we have ever gotten when it comes to Ninjago. So, let me explain. When it comes to Lloyd and Akita's dynamic over the course of the Ice chapter, the entire storyline revolves around the idea of the two of them healing from trauma they went through before the Ice chapter started. And I feel like this storyline is able to work for a number of different reasons. For starters, there are the parallels between Lloyd and Akita. When it comes to Lloyd and Akita, the two of them are meant to be very similar to each other in a number of different ways, and the season makes this very clear. Mainly by recreating certain scenes from Season 8. Specifically, you have stuff like Lloyd and Akita's argument during the episode Secret of the Wolf, and one of the shots during that episode is meant to be a recreation of Harumi's betrayal during the Season 8 episode Game of Masks. Plus, at the same time, you also have stuff like the ending of Last of the Formlings, which is meant to be a recreation of when Harumi forced Lloyd to watch the death of the four original ninja and Sensei Wu. The position of Lloyd and Akita during that episode and even the camera angle is the exact same in both episodes. Also, when it comes to both of those situations, they're both meant to be the same thing. They're meant to show Lloyd and Akita losing everyone close to them because of an evil villain who's trying to take over their home and an evil emperor that they're using to accomplish that goal. And when it comes to these parallels, I feel like they honestly work really well in order to show how similar Lloyd and Akita are to each other. And I feel like when it comes to these similarities, it ends up helping their dynamic in a big way. Another reason why I like Lloyd and Akita's dynamic during the Ice chapter is the way the two of them help each other over the course of the season. And that is the two of them just talking about the trauma they've gone through. And that's something we don't really get when it comes to Ninjago. Characters actually talking about any kind of trauma they've gone through and reflecting on it. And we see that happen with Lloyd and Akita. The two of them talk about the stuff they went through prior to the Ice chapter happening, and as a result of them talking about it and the other person listening, it allows the two of them to overcome their trust issues and move on from that trauma. And I feel like this honestly works really well when it comes to the storyline, by again allowing the two characters to just talk about what's going on. I genuinely really like this. Plus, in addition to seeing the two of them overcoming their trust issues, the two of them are also able to help out each other with something else. Specifically, an idea that the two of them have both been holding on to for a while at this point. Both Lloyd and Akita were holding on to some kind of idea over the course of the Ice chapter, And by talking to each other, they were able to let go of that idea. When it comes to Akita, she was holding on to the idea of revenge, specifically getting revenge on Vex and the Ice Emperor, and Lloyd was able to help her realize that if she keeps on holding to that idea of revenge, it's going to ultimately destroy her. And Lloyd would know about this because he's seen that exact thing happen multiple times over the course of the show. And by the end of the season, Akita ends up letting go of revenge, and as a result, she's able to help out Lloyd during the final battle against the Ice Emperor by sacrificing herself, allowing Lloyd to continue onward and put his trust in Zane, which is something that I do honestly like. And when it comes to Lloyd, he was holding on to his obsessions surrounding his failures. More specifically, though, his failures related to Harumi. After Harumi betrayed Lloyd during Season 8, Lloyd had been constantly holding on to his failures surrounding Harumi, and as a result, he ended up developing trust issues, which ultimately led to Lloyd not being in a very good position ever since that betrayal. However, after he met Akita, Lloyd started opening up about stuff related to Harumi and other things in his life. And as a result of him talking to Akita, Lloyd was finally able to let go of those obsessions surrounding Harumi. And during the Ice chapter, we even see something really interesting happening with Lloyd. Because during the Ice chapter, we actually hear Lloyd say this. And there was this girl, Harumi, and I really thought she liked me, but I found out she was just pretending. She only wanted to bring my father back from the departed realm so he could destroy us. And in my opinion, this is a very big thing when it comes to Lloyd, because he's accepted the fact that Harumi was a bad person who was just using him to get what she wanted. And as a result of that, and the rest of his interactions with Akita, we saw Lloyd letting go of his obsessions surrounding his failures with Harumi, and he was able to take the steps necessary to move on from her. And that is something we see continue for the remainder of the Wild Brain era of the show. Lloyd finally getting over Harumi and moving on from her. And it all started during the Ice chapter with Lloyd meeting Akita. And honestly, I really like the storyline when it comes to the show. And then by the end of the season, we see the effect that Lloyd and Akita had on each other. Like I said earlier, as a result of Lloyd and Akita meeting each other and interacting over the course of the season, the two of them were both able to overcome their trust issues and also let go of an idea that they were holding on to for a while. When it comes to Akita, like I said, she was able to let go of revenge, and when it comes to Lloyd, he was able to let go of his obsessions surrounding his failures. And as a result, by the end of the season, Vex and the Ice Emperor were defeated, and the Neverrealm was returned back to normal. Plus, at the same time, Lloyd also started down on a brand new path, revolving around him getting over Harumi and moving on from her. And like I said, I feel like this was honestly handled really well. And finally, there is one last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Lloyd and Akita's dynamic, and that is the ending of it. Lloyd and Akita's Ice Chapter storyline comes to an end during the final episode of Season 11, where right before Lloyd goes back to Ninjago, Akita gives Lloyd a kiss on the cheek. And when it comes to this scene, it is obviously meant to be a recreation of the Season 8 scene where Harumi gave Lloyd a kiss on the cheek. And when it comes to this moment, I feel like it is honestly the best way that Lloyd and Akita's Ice Chapter storyline could have ended, because I feel like this scene is able to perfectly show how much Lloyd and Akita grew over the course of the season and how close the two of them became over the course of the season. All throughout the Ice chapter, we saw Lloyd and Akita interacting with each other and helping the other one overcome their trust issues. And as a result, the two of them were both able to heal from trauma that they went through before the Ice chapter started. That was the entire point of their storyline, allowing the two of them to finally heal. And when it comes to this moment, we get a chance to see just how much these two have grown, with the two of them having overcome their trust issues as a result. But also, like I said, this moment is also meant to show how close the two of them became over the course of the season. You can tell based on Lloyd and Akita's interactions that the two of them do have feelings for each other, and when it comes to this moment, it's meant to show how much Akita loves Lloyd by giving him a kiss on the cheek. And when it comes to Lloyd, it's meant to show him taking comfort in his loved ones and the people who care about him, with Lloyd knowing that there are people out there who want to help him. And Akita is one of those people because of how she was able to help him over the course of the season. And like I said, when it comes to Lloyd and Akita, you can tell based on their interactions that the two of them have feelings for each other, and it's pretty obvious that Akita loves Lloyd, and you can tell that when it comes to Lloyd, he feels the same way about her. And after this happens, Lloyd has to go back to Ninjago, but the season hints that this goodbye is not the end, because after this happens, Akita ends up narrating the final moments of the episode where she talks about seeing Lloyd again, and she says the line, "Never is a very long time," setting up some kind of return for Akita and the idea of her and Lloyd reuniting at some point. And honestly, this is something that I really hope we get a chance to see in the future. I think that Lloyd and Akita's dynamic was absolutely amazing over the course of the Ice chapter, and I really hope that we finally get the chance to see the two of them again after all this time. I think it would be absolutely amazing, and hopefully we could get a chance to have their dynamic expanded upon in the future. I think that would be amazing, and I just think it would be so cool to finally have these two characters find themselves again. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. When it comes to Akita, I think she is an absolutely amazing character when it comes to the show, and she is one of my absolute favorite characters in all of Ninjago. I think that Akita is a very well written and likable character when it comes to the show, and at this point, her and Zane are actually both tied for being my overall favorite Ninjago characters. I really, really like Akita, and like I said earlier, I really hope that we get the chance to see her again at some point. I think that would be absolutely amazing. And so that's all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? Tell me, was there anything else amazing about Akita that I left out during this video? Tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later, guys. This is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.